Hey, Rudy.
What's up,
R-
man?
really glad to have you. I am excited for today. Our guest is president and founder of Kazar Logistics, Rudy Cazares, amongst many other things. Though we're gonna dive into a little bit today. But for the rest of you guys, for the audience, welcome to the Build Your A Team podcast, where we share how veteran entrepreneurs and business leaders build exceptional teams, uncovering whether their success comes from strategic analysis, intuition, or pure luck. Today, we have Rudy Cazares. He's a 15-year Marine Corps veteran. Again, founder of Kazar Logistics, a Bronx based delivery service that began in 2020 with just 8 drivers and a fleet of vans delivering for Amazon. Today, it's 200 plus people. And you also have Joint Ops Logistics, where your company runs 8 routes for FedEx and has been recognized the pinnacle status of contractors, a two-time gold medal contractor recognition given to you guys from over 6,000 FedEx contractors. Rudy, I'm going to keep going, but just to brag on you some more, but you've been through a ton, and you've been recognized. In 2024, you received the Veteran Entrepreneur Award by the American Latino Veterans Association. You've been nominated for VetCon's Community Service Award. You sit on a committee for the post 9/11 memorial built that will be built in Queens, and you guys are also part of the Nourish Program, where over 2 million meals have been delivered to vets. On top of that, you were a former professional EOS implementer, and now you have your own coaching business. Okay, we've got a ton going on for you, Rudy. Do you have anything that I missed just as an introduction?
Hey, well, first of all, Freddie, I appreciate you doing this, right? It's about being able to give veteran leaders that want to have an impact on their specific community a platform, and you're doing just that. And so I'm appreciative of whatever you do every single day to be able to allow individuals like myself to have a platform, but also be able to make that solid connection. So
Thank you.
appreciate you doing what you do and for your service. So, but I mean, look, CEO Circle is where we met. I think that's something that just kind of, is for me the last couple of years a huge blessing to be in a room with entrepreneurs like yourself. It's about 60 of us that get together twice a month and once a quarter in person, and to be able to have that network of like-minded individuals that are making an impact in business, in their particular industries, in their geographic areas, I think is huge. And so I just want to thank you for being able to make that happen and being part of that group. So that's how you and I met. But origin story for me, um, listen, I'm a New York City native, born and raised in Queens, public school educated. I come from immigrant parents. My parents immigrated from Mexico back in the 70s, chasing the American dream. And here I am today. I'm living it. I'm happy and humble to be able to say that we've been able to achieve that milestone. Uh, just, first generation or second generation. My parents are citizens, so
Mm.
I guess that makes me second generation, but that's important to be able to highlight because, my journey didn't just start in the military. It started in my upbringing, in my household, in my neighborhood, and bringing it back full circle after 15 years in the Marine Corps, 3 combat tours. I was enlisted, then became an officer. So I've led over 400 plus Marines and sailors during that time. And I share that because I've taken everything I've learned from the military, particularly around leadership and building teams, and I've applied it to business. And so if you ask me, where I am today after 25 years, I want to say that, the last 25 years I spent building teams, whether it's to kick down doors, to catch bad guys, to now knock on doors and deliver smiles. It takes an entire team to be able to make that happen. And so I am fortunate and blessed that I have an opportunity to continue to lead. Early on in my career, someone told me when I was a young company commander, they said, "This is not your company. This is the Marine Corps company."
Mm.
And it was a little bit of a, hit to the ego, but that's the reality. And so now that I have my own company and I'm running a group of over 200 guys, I feel like I'm back in those days having an impact not only on my community, but on the people that are part of that team. And it doesn't just end when I go on to my next tour, right? I've been
Right.
doing it now for 5 years, and I'm obviously going to continue that legacy moving forward. So, anyway, that's a little bit about myself and my team.
You know what? Thank you for that introduction. I mean, you are the very well known in New York City, and you're representing veteran entrepreneurs out there, and you're employing veterans. So that's admirable. Can you, for the rest of the listeners, just can you go into what does an Amazon delivery service look like? What the contracting service, and same for FedEx. What does that look like? How crazy are your days?
Yeah. So I guess maybe just to describe it, they call us DSPs, delivery service partners, which is just a fancy way of calling me a contractor. And so I just happen to be one of a couple thousand contractors that are in partnership with Amazon. And what sets us apart from other third-party carriers is that we are required to represent the brand. So every vehicle that you see out on the road that is an Amazon branded vehicle, it is leased and operated by a small business owner like myself. I happen to be one of a couple dozen that are in partnership with Amazon in the tri-state area. And so if you're hired to come aboard the team, you're going to be wearing the Amazon uniform, you're going to be driving in an Amazon branded vehicle, delivering Amazon's packages, but you're going to be an employee of Kazar Logistics LLC. And so not every contractor is the same. Every contractor runs their business somewhat unique. There's certain things that are pretty standard in how we operate. But in the end, it's about the culture that you're able to build within your team that has allowed us to be successful. So we are considered a top performing team. And that's not bragging, that's just fact. That's why we operate out of 2 stations. This year we launched a pilot program with Amazon running e-bikes through a same-day delivery service in Manhattan. And we are fortunate. We've been able to bring on 100 plus bikers to be able to deliver from 2:30 in the morning to 11 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, 364 days a year. I don't even know what day we're getting off, but pointless at this point. We are running 24/7. And so that is significant. And the model is very similar to how FedEx created their model. Same thing, contractor model. My guys are wearing the FedEx uniform. We're driving FedEx branded trucks, and we are delivering FedEx packages for FedEx's customers. But those employees report up to Joint Ops Logistics. And so we've been able to have an impact in both businesses running those teams that size. And even though it's the grind, there is a light at the end of the tunnel. You know, we operate on a system which is built on a 90-day world. And so we have goals that we focus in on, and that's what's led to us being successful. And right now we're getting ready for playoff season. Playoff season's peak season. And so we are like knee deep in it, getting our team ready to be able to perform one more year. 6th year with Amazon, 5th year with FedEx.
That's crazy. That's amazing. What are you doing well, you think? What are you what kind of conditions are you setting? Environments are you cultivating so that you and your team are successful here and recognized amongst all the other contractors?
Yeah. So, I've also got experience in doing the EOS thing. I've been doing it now for 7 years. And, what we say in EOS is that out of all the issues that you may be dealing with as an entrepreneur any given day, and I include managers in on that because the managers are in the trenches with you. Out of those dozens, if not hundreds of problems that you're dealing with, they all boil down to one of the six components of EOS. It's either, your vision, it's either on track or not on track. Everybody's on the same page. You either have the right people in the right seats, or you're not, you're not assessing your people fast enough to be able to make decisions. You don't have a scorecard, or you do have a scorecard, or maybe you have too many metrics that you're managing. So it's these components, these 3 components that allow for these other components that now start settling in with all these issues that come up, right? Now you got the right people in the right seats, you're measuring the right numbers, everybody's on the same page, but you're encountering all these issues.
Mm.
How do you deal with those issues? You got to figure out how to prioritize because you're limited on time and resources. And then what have you established processes around? Because you can't document everything. Freddie, I think you know from being in the military, you break out this playbook that is like 500 pages long, like wide and sitting on a shelf with a bunch of dust on it. Like nobody reads that stuff. So if you make it really simple about capturing the processes that are like day-to-day stuff and core to what you do, and you keep them simple, now you have plays that you could actually run day in and day out, right? And then it's a matter of building your 90-day world, your weekly meetings, your monthly, your quarterly goals, and then having that frequency like you go under for 90 days, you come up at the end of 90 days, you look back, you take a look at, you know, what you did right, what you did wrong, you learn from it, you reset on your goals, and you go back under for another 90 days. No different from being in the military. And prior to deployment, you're completely focused, right? Like nothing is going to distract you, right? About what is important right before deployment. Like I treat my world no different now.
You know, that model, right? The operating model you just described, it's what EOS is popular and famous for, and it's not something that everyone understands. Like, in order to run a business the way that EOS breaks it out, Gino Wickman, they've broken it down to for people to live in these 90-day worlds and have goals and rocks and have all the way they address issues. It's a very, I think, simple methodology that every small business owner should really look into and study, because otherwise it's just constantly going and it's chaos, and you're gonna let it just pile on top of you and all your people. So what was your source of inspiration to get involved? You know, you said EOS was 7 years now. Why EOS in the beginning, and then why did you eventually say, you know what, Amazon DSP?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so my journey outside, out of the military, transitioning from overseas, I was living in Japan at the time. I just followed the traditional path that most junior military officers getting out were following. You get with some sort of recruiting firm that positions you into like some sort of leadership position. It just happened to be a Fortune 500 company, and then you go through like the school of hard knocks for an MBA. I mean, that's really it, right? And so at some point, you come up for air and you realize like, hey, yes, I can follow this traditional path, but I want to surround myself not around entrepreneurs, but entrepreneurs. And that's very hard to do in the corporate world. And so when I went to go work for a private company, I had an opportunity to be part of their leadership team, which means I was directly working with the owners of that company. And I saw the impact that EOS had on that business. And the EOS implementer that was there was one of the OGs of EOS. I mean, Gino Wickman was his facilitator for his company back in the day. And so when you talk to these, not only entrepreneurs, but other EOS implementers, you realize it's really simple. It's just a matter of like, are you going to be all in making that happen? And so I made a decision in 2019 that I was going to start my own business. And Amazon, the DSP model was still fairly new. It was before COVID. And I saw an opportunity. And so for me, it's about being prepared for the opportunities that are presented to you. And I just happen to be in a position to take advantage of that. And then the rest is history. The rest is like opportunities that just came out of it, which was, I mean, COVID, right? COVID is what it is, right? There was no escaping that. So we had to figure out how to operate. And, the delivery business just, fast forward 10 years. And just being in that position now meant that I needed to keep up. And so applying EOS was very difficult early on because you don't have a leadership team. It's just you, your wife, your brother, the key leaders. But you take certain components of EOS, you apply them. It's like the supermarket approach. Some stuff works, some stuff doesn't work, but you continue either to persevere or to pivot on your decisions and on those opportunities. And so that's really it. That's kind of been the journey for the last 6-7 years. Really more than that, I guess, getting out of the military in 2011.
Yeah, I mean, and your military career, it's also interesting because you did a stint as a recruiter as well. and I'm curious how that mindset really shaped you going into the corporate world. But while we're talking about just your origins, right, and how you started for Amazon, so they approve you and say, "Okay, Rudy, you're gonna run routes for us. You need to get some drivers, you need to get some trucks ready, or they'll give it to you." What is it that you stepped into when you started Kazar? Like, were you the guy just did it all, who did it all, or did you have hires, or did you have key leaders that you were able to depend on? If not, when did you find that person?
Yeah, so the program had been around probably like really kind of catching speed about, I don't know, 4 or 5 months before when I started. Around the summer of 2019, I met a couple of individuals that started doing it. And, I was just picking up on the things that they were doing, right? We're talking about like very similar to somebody that's deployed and you're about to deploy. So you tap into those individuals that are going through what you're going to go through in the next 6 months. And so, the learning curve was steep. I was doing all my recruiting. My wife wasn't, she's still involved in the business. She's always been supporting that for number one.
Mm.
And at times I got to be that for her, because she's CEO of the household. So, I think she's one of the unsung heroes, just like spouses in the military, spouses of entrepreneurs don't get recognized for everything that they do, dealing with crazy entrepreneurs like myself, right? And yeah,
Yeah,
I mean, and then we're building the team. We're building the
yeah.
team. I got my brother involved. I ended up bringing, some other family involved. And so, what was important to me is understanding where do I have to spend my time and what's going to have the biggest impact on my business. And I can tell you that early on, you're wearing multiple hats.
Mm.
I mean, the idea that people get into entrepreneurship and things just happen, that is not the case. It's like an emotional roller coaster. It's decisions after decisions. You experience burnout. That's just facts, because think about it. The idea of being able to take a step back and take a 4-week vacation, it's just unheard of. Like I never did. I haven't done that since the military.
Mm.
And I don't plan on doing that. But at the same time, you also got to be able to take care of yourself, Freddie, right? These are some of the things that we're focused in on this year as entrepreneurs,
Hmm.
taking care of yourself, mental health, physical health, and then ultimately the example that you're able to set to those other individuals within your organization.
Why do you think that you were able to be successful with hiring family, right? Because that's like a big no-no for a lot of entrepreneurs. Like, don't hire family, don't hire friends. Why were you successful there?
Yeah. I mean, I think success can be defined in certain ways.
Mm.
And listen, look, I'll be honest with you. Had a close family member to me that I had to fire him.
Mm.
You know, fire him. Very close. I mean, you think about the conversations you got to have with their parents. I mean, we're close, and ultimately in that scenario, the individual ended up going to rehab, and he came back to the organization. So
Mm.
this is you know some of the challenges that you would deal with, I guess, as a Marine leader. But the reality is, the Marine Corps, it's mission first, people second, right? For me, I guess what I've always seen in the Marine Corps is you take care of your people to be able to take care of your mission. There's no one comes before the other. Yes, if you had to choose, like
I
you got to
love
make a
that.
hard
Right.
decision. You got to make a hard decision, but in the end, you take care of your people, and they're going to take care of your business. And so, my, my challenge has always been how consistent am I in messaging? Am I putting myself in their shoes? Am I being empathetic or too empathetic? Right. So, when it comes down to family or even friends, it's about understanding that the business has to come first because you got to protect the house. The house is what take the business takes care of us, right? Feeds our families. So as long as we are on the same page there, then any decision I make, that I'm always considering you first. And so, um, we're still going through stuff, right? We have individuals that may have hit certain ceilings within the organization. I got to bring others to come in, that you know, may not have been with me for 5 years, but that's fine too, as we continue to grow and evolve in this business and, business is taking care of us. I mean, you're not just a number. but we all got to be able to make sure we're delivering on the things that we said we were going to do. So
Do all your employees or your teammates have that real clear, just clarity of what the mission is, how they fit? Do you make sure that everyone understands like what does success look like in the businesses first?
yeah, so the challenge is trying to get everybody on the same page. When we're talking about delivery associates, some individuals that are working part-time, 2:30 in the morning that I may not see as often as somebody maybe at 7, 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, getting the message to them is not as easy as we know in the military, right? We
Mm-hmm.
consistently driving down the messages, commander's intent. And I have, like in the military, commander's critical information requirements. Somebody has a baby, somebody gets hurt, some significant event that happens, I get notified, doesn't matter what time. So certain things that we've implemented to try to make sure that we're staying connected with the front line is important. Now, some of my drivers may not care that I'm looking to build this massive portfolio, right? They care about what's going to be able to bring, put food on the table on Friday, right? What's going to be able to secure their schedule? What's going to be able to create the consistency that they need, right? These are the things that I have to be able to connect to in messaging, and sometimes it's just not that easy when you have 200 plus people operating 7 days a week, these hours. So we've had to work and get better at our communication, and we're consistently improving on that. So to tell you 100% that everybody's on the same page, my leadership team is on the same page. My management team is on the same page. But we continue to try to make improvements to be able to connect with the front line consistently every single day.
And to just clarify this point, you guys are on the same page because of that EOS foundation, correct? You guys have the weekly L10s, you guys have the quarterly meetings and the annual planning meetings. So you guys are on the same page because of that. Do they turn around, and how do they ensure, how do you like coach them, or how do you encourage them to make sure that their guys are taken care of as well?
Yep.
Is because I don't know that level in EOS. Is it the same
Yep.
thing?
No, it's actually an additional layer that's added in because at this point, we're talking about frontline people that their office is a vehicle and
Mm-hmm.
they're operating in the field, right? These
Mm-hmm.
individuals, they have emails, but they're not on project management systems like Asana, checking things off, right? They're not behind a computer. Their phone is their computer. So for us on messaging, we have to have daily huddles every single day. We have our daily huddles with our managers and above, the guys that happen to be on duty.
Mm.
Talk about priorities for the day and any messaging that I have to put out there or guidance, right? It's 15 minutes every single day with my managers Monday through Friday. Now they in turn hold turnover calls Sunday through Saturday. And they have to have it when shifts are turning over, or they themselves, the operations manager, maybe has to have a certain huddle on a specific item related to fleet or huddles around recruiting. So we have like specific meetings for those things, but they're like in 15 to 30-minute bursts. And they have to be agenda driven, really focused, and then to dos have to come out of them so that we can get things done. I mean, it's just that simple. So we've taken it one step further, but we've been very conscious not to create an entire schedule of meetings because I mean, this from the military, man. Like meetings, like forget about it. Let's just go out there and let's get the stuff done,
Mm.
right? Most people, especially people on my team, they're that the same way too, So they want to get a little bit of guidance. They already have their plan for the day. Let me go ahead and act on it and get it done. But we got to have those touches every single day.
Yeah, that's what I'm hearing is just the constant bursts of communication, intentional meetings, intentional agenda driven problems to solve, and then action steps to come out of. And I like that it's the simplicity of that, and the fact that you're constantly communicating. There are businesses that I've seen that that don't even do daily huddles, right? It's like, what do you do for the day? And they're like, oh, the same thing that I did yesterday and the week before, and then problems just become like swept under the rug, and it compounds. But you have a communication heavy, a lot of transparency, I assume, in decision making and problems. So you built that system, which is really cool to see. Wait, can we go step into your before this, so your military world, where you were a Marine, you then worked as a recruiter in Marine Corps recruiting for a while, and then you jumped into Cintas. So, what kind of lessons did you learn? What kind of mindset was shaped in you when you went through those experiences, especially recruiting?
Well, I wasn't an actual recruiter. I spent some time with the recruiting office here while I was transitioning in 2009, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and when I
You were
was
the
an
commander
enlisted
there,
guy,
right?
yeah, and when I was an enlisted guy, I probably did a summer and doing recruiting assistant. But I think the key takeaway there is understanding that there's a pipeline to like building a Marine and understanding that we start with character. You go through this whole process on the officer side. It's about attriting 50% at
Mm.
OCS, and that's what it is, right? They only want the best, and so you got to be very selective. You got to be able to prep those individuals, and then you got to be able to mentor them to be able to be successful while they're going through OCS. And so my time in recruiting just taught me those hard lessons that you got to have a plan, you got to be able to focus on character, and I apply that to business, right? The first things that I talk about are really expectations and the core values that we focus in on to be able to make our team unique. I tell people all the time that I don't need any 200 New Yorkers to come work for me. I need the top 200 that are the best fit for my company. And when you've got 10 million plus people in the city, that's still a little hard, but it's definitely doable as long as you're able to, have your recruiting goals, your pipeline, right, your onboarding process. By no stretch are we perfect, but those are the key takeaways that I spend my time doing recruiting, both on the enlisted and officer side, and then being able to apply it to business and in the corporate world.
So
Um,
so in a role that's high turnover, like drivers, right? High turnover, just crazy hours, and probably mixed between part-time and full-time employees. What is your kind of avatar of a perfect team member, right? And how do you vet them for that?
yeah. So I want to say that's the part that we're still working to refine on,
Mm.
especially on their e-biker side. Our e-biker profile has changed from what it is for our driver. And so what our driver was is we were looking for full-time availability any day of the week. We were looking for a person that had at least 1 to 2 years consistency in work, somebody that had delivery experience, or somebody that worked out in the field, right? Somebody going from the office to this kind of job is probably not for them because the learning curve is too steep. And somebody that like understands that they're having an impact on their own community just by being safe,
Hmm.
right? People that are just willing to buy into that, not just saying, I got driving experience, I'm looking to make this, and I'm not looking to work weekends, right? Like we sidestepped those conversations and we started having it about these things, right? Now with our bikers, it really becomes more of a part-time individual that's augmenting either their work schedule with another job, or they just want to be around to take their kids to school and pick them up, right? So they want to be able to have like a side hustle that's legit, right? They've got some PTO coming. They have an opportunity to move up within the organization. So now they're working full time. They're getting offered benefits and 401k. So the profile there is the individual that is willing to come in, try it out, right? If you like it, now we have an opportunity for you to be able to move up and grow within the role. But specifically, 5 things that we're looking for. We're looking for individuals that are professional, because the world we live in is not black and white. We live in the world of gray. And again, I can write a play for every single scenario, but they're just not going to read it, right?
Mm.
And so if they're professional, they understand, just keep it professional, whether you're dealing with a community member, a Amazon customer, an Amazonian, or a fellow team member,
Mm.
just keep it professional, right? Number two, you got to be willing to be part of a team. Can't build a team if you don't want to be a part of it. Number three, loyalty, which just means for a driver or a biker is being reliable. You're scheduled to show up to work, show up to work, show up early. Early's on time is late. And number four, we're performance driven. So we measure everything every single week. You're going to know exactly where you stand because we stack rank every single person. And
Mm.
then finally, it's safety. If you're understanding that getting the job done and doing safe is like walking and chewing gum, you got to be able to do both at the same time, then we're all good, right? So these are the things that we look for from individuals that are coming aboard the team. And as we look at the different profiles, we're making adjustments, based on the feedback and really taking a look at our existing people that have been with us for 5 years. Like, why do they stick around? What is it that was, it wasn't that English was their first language, it was that they had these characteristics that we were looking for and they exhibit them day in and day out when they're on the team.
Was this something? So even the rankings, right, and the quantifiable ability to stack and rack folks, was this based on was it your discovery? Did you guys come up with that? Or was that part of what Amazon is teaching its teammates? How did you come up with those? And even your
So
values?
yeah, so the scorecard items and every single person in the business has a number came from EOS and then my time in the corporate world, right?
Mm.
But it's easier said than done, right? If you're a small business owner trying to capture all those metrics and being accurate with your metrics and your reporting, and then the reporting having to be on a frequency that is just like you can't wait 3 days into the following week because then you're already 3 days into like a new period, right?
Hmm.
But Amazon made it very easy for us to be able to make that happen. They provide us with the scorecard. Then we're able to add in specific things like around attendance, tardiness, like things like that we just put the picture in, and then we got a rating system that we assess every single week. And
Oh,
so
so it's a hybrid kind of
yeah,
model.
it has to be. It has to be,
Mm.
because just on numbers alone, a person looks great, but what if it took two people to go out to help them to finish their route, right? That's not captured in a scorecard unless you're documenting it. What if they came in like 20 minutes late? Yeah, they might have crushed their route, but what's going to happen on another day that they're coming in late? Maybe they don't show up. Now I'm having to call someone else in. Now we're late for a dispatch. So we take a holistic approach, and then professionalism, right? I mean, you come in contact with people's every single day. It's just like if that's how they're talking to us, how are they talking to the customer? And so we want
Mm.
to make sure that we're constantly giving feedback on those items. And so yeah, it's a hybrid of all that. It's a combination of things, and but now it's a matter of being consistent with us being able to deliver that feedback because we don't ever want somebody to be surprised, right? That's the last thing that you want.
Yeah, agreed. Agreed. And yeah, you want to avoid the surprises. What I'm hearing you, Rudy, is that you are at that PhD level right now of just managing people where, I mean, if you have quantifiable numbers and you have a system that allows for that and you're consistent with that, I mean, that just makes everything clear, right? That means your employees know, your teammates know where they stand, right? And how they can improve. I mean, that is I mean, I honestly, that is a PhD level in my opinion, in my experience. Even starting with the values, a lot of businesses don't have a clear um, outlook of exactly what kind of employee they need. It's like an ICP, like an ideal client profile. For the sales front, we work on that time and time again. We build, we name our avatars, we give them an age, we say this is who we're selling to, but we don't do that in the corporate world when building teams. What compelled you to do this? Like, how did you figure this out?
Yeah, and I think it goes back to being a young lieutenant, right? Where you gotta go ahead and describe what your intent is behind every mission, every operation.
Mm.
Um, just being able to be very clear about what it is that you're looking for, right? Especially when you operate in a very decentralized command. I think that's one of the benefits of the leadership that came out of the Iraq, Afghanistan era is that in order to fight a war of counterinsurgency, you had to decentralize command. And so what came out of that was a lot of leaders that, had this ability to make decisions at the small unit, at the tactical level. And so, for me, it's a matter of just, I put pen to paper in 2019. I said, what do I want my people to expect from me? Like, let me be very clear. And I wrote them on a piece of paper, and I've been talking about them now for 5 years. And I haven't changed them much because, why fix something that ain't broken? It's worked. Now, is it perfect? Absolutely not. We're working towards perfection. We're not ever going to be perfect because that's utopia. It just doesn't exist. But on a core value standpoint specifically, one of the things that I picked up, and this was later on in my career, was about Pat Lencioni and what he teaches about core values. And so there's a few things, and we just went through this exercise again with my team just to kind of understand like where we are. It's not it's not aspirational goals that we just don't exhibit. We think we have them, we want them, but we don't have them. It's not us. It's not accidental where we had somebody that maybe worked as part of like a top performing team and they brought their characters. So now we kind of folded that into who we are and the DNA of our team. It's not that, and it's not a permission to play. It's not something just like you could throw on a website, some marketing slick. Like that's not core values. Like, what is it about our core values that make us distinct and make us unique? Because that ultimately is the DNA of our team, and it's either going to define our success or we're going to be unclear about it, and then we're going to end up falling into these other scenarios.
Yeah, I really like that. I do like Lencioni's exercise there, as well. Just like it's an analyzing your core values, correct?
Yeah. You go through the exercise and then you measure it against your people.
Yeah.
Every person goes in, I got measured it. It's just like, are you always displaying it? Are you sometimes? Are you never? Right.
Yep.
And so it's the ones where you fall into that sometimes or never, where you're saying to yourself, like, okay, is this really a core value? Because
hmm
if it's not, then we got some work to do.
Yeah. Love it. Okay. I'd like to understand. I mean, you have such a great methodology for, making sure that people are performing, right? And there's very clear guidelines and expectations on performance. What is your process in hiring then? Like how many stages are there? How do you think about hiring for the fast turnover jobs and then for the long-term kind of executive roles?
Yeah. I think there's actually 3 layers for us. There's the front line, the individuals that are coming aboard the team. Um, and those, we have an applicant tracking system that we built certain stages. We try to automate a lot of the stuff up front with screening questions, recorded answers to questions, through a video, and then uploading a resume. I think a resume is extremely important, but what I tell them is just like, you're not applying to college. I don't care about font or format. Like, put it on a piece of paper, take a picture, upload it. Just need to know where you work, what role you had, how long you were there, right?
hmm
And so once we get them there, then it's a matter of just screening them, putting them into an informational interview, which I sit on. I like being on all of them because now they hear from me. There's no question, there's no confusion, just clarity. 30 minutes. We found now that we break out into groups and we now get to know them a little bit more. The hope is that within a 24, 48-hour period, we're extending verbal offers that are contingent on background checks and drug screens. And now it's a waiting game of week, 2 weeks to be able to get them scheduled for training. So that's hiring in mass and scale, okay? Multiple pipelines to be able to feed that. Then there's internal hires, so individuals that get promoted into roles. So you're a driver, you want to get more experience behind, a bigger vehicle. We have step vans. So as long as you meet certain criteria, you're able to apply and move up into a bigger vehicle, make some more money. We have individuals that want to move into management. So now they become leads and captains. We have a 30-day probational period, and then they're given an opportunity to be able to perform. And those individuals spend half an hour with me every single week. It's called the Captain's Huddle. And, we talk, and your opportunity to have like a seat at the table with the owner, right? If you don't say anything, it's not going to get heard. You can never say you were never given an opportunity. It's like the NCOs being able to spend time with their CO, right? And then there's the external hires. These are the ones that are very like filling strategic positions, HR managers or, ops managers or, other areas. Those, for me, I rely heavily on my network. Obviously, Freddie, you and I have had conversations about those roles and what we can do and what's the timing, at what point do we invest, what point do we hold, things like that. So there's three different approaches. The last one is more based on, just being patient, getting to know your network and understanding what you really need. And is it going to be a right fit for them, right? It always has to be a right fit for them.
Right. This middle portion is fascinating. So you said that that's more for your mid-level managers and the folks that are looking to grow within your organization for this Captain's Corners deal?
Yes. And so, listen, I've only been around for five plus years. It's going to be 6 years, right? For me to tell somebody this is a career, you'll be able to retire with me at age 67, that's just not true, right? I can only speak from my own experience. And my experience over the last 5 years, we've hired over 1,000 people. In order to manage that many people, from like recruiting to bringing them aboard, and if they decide to move on to bigger and better things, we have to focus on this core group of individuals that help us manage it. Now, we can't have the same ratio of like one leader to every four like we did in the military, right? That's just not sustainable with this kind of business and the margin. So we have to be very creative in what those positions look like. We have to create opportunities and give them the tools that they need to be able to perform. And so that's leaders leading leaders. And so my focus is to focus on my leadership team, make myself available for my front line when they need me through my communications systems. And then there's another layer there, which is the ones that are, leading by example. Those are the ones that are, like the Marine Corps says, ductus exemplo, lead by example. Get out there, show the guys that you can run a route, show them what good looks like, be able to coach them, show them what safe looks like. Like that's the only way to do it.
How many of these mid-level managers do you currently have that you meet weekly on a weekly basis, 30 minutes each?
Yeah. Well, it's together. It's an entire
together.
group.
Okay.
Yeah. Because we got we're probably like with managers 17. Yeah.
So altogether they're given this 30 minutes with you to voice any concerns, anything they've learned, anything that's going on with their teams. Is that correct?
Yes. They have to feel empowered. They have to have a platform. They have to have an opportunity to be able to talk to the top, to know that if I need to make changes, like that's the person that's going to make those changes, right?
Yeah,
Some stuff
I love that.
I can't change, like if it's Amazon or FedEx, right? And I'll tell them that. I'll tell them that too. Like, hey, you know what? I hear you. May not be something that I can change. Maybe something else that we can work thinking outside the box. But they have to have a platform.
And this is all is it in person or is it online?
We do virtual just to be able to capture the entire audience, because you're going to have individuals that are either off those days, or, a guy may be out in the field that takes, his lunch at that time. So we try to make it as easy as possible. The next step is to be able to have actual like formal training for our management team. That's something that I was looking to launch this year. It's a goal for me, but competing interests. So next year, I think it'll be the year to get that going.
Yeah. So with this, I mean, you're obviously heavily dependent on building teams. I mean, that is what you're really good at doing. That is obviously what your experience has led you to learn and to actually execute. And it's the key to your success, because it is all about people. Of this, where do you see, like, where are your biggest headaches? Is it in that first bucket, second, third? Where do you see kind of your biggest issues to address?
Yeah, I think the biggest challenge always becomes the first 90 to 180 days of a new person coming aboard. And more so when you're operating heavy machinery like vehicles, like step vans and such. But I don't discount an e-bike as not being something that can be, dangerous just because we're in moving traffic, right? You're
Hmm.
alongside a vehicle, and so um, the first 90 to 180 days in having a person not only learn the job but being able to be safe is for me the part that keeps me up at night. Okay. One, you're getting to know a new team. I mean, I'm putting myself in their shoes, and I'm saying to myself, they're new to the team, right? They're figuring out whether this is for them or not. So you got that whole, that person being new type of scenario that is always going to be, top of mind for them. But then it's getting to know the safety aspect of doing their role, right? Like for me, I offer an efficiency bonus. And what that means is that if they finish earlier, I pay them the hours that were they're scheduled as long as they hit their scorecard. And in those scenarios, I got to be very clear. It's a efficiency bonus. It's not a being fast bonus, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's not speeding through stop signs bonus. It's making sure you're slowing down enough to be efficient while maintaining the safety, being able to adhere to the safety metrics of the role. And so that is what kind of keeps me up at night. And I want to make sure that that's why I get with them during their hiring, that they're hearing from me like how serious I am about safety and how all this other stuff around what we're looking for is related to being able to get the job done and being safe.
So that the fear, the actual thing that keeps you up at night is people failing to meet those standards or people getting hurt. Safety is the biggest priority for you. Is that what you're saying?
Safety is the biggest risk exposure in
Mm,
this business, and I say it because like think about it, right? If it's happening at 10 o'clock on a Sunday
mm.
or 2:30 on a Wednesday, right? There's got to be somebody there that's watching, that's making sure they're providing coaching. That it's not because the cat's away, the mice will play, right? It's not that type of scenario. Those are the things that I try to make sure that we have
Got
the
it.
systems in place to mitigate against that risk exposure.
How do you think about culture now with your teammates? You are very involved with team selection. You're very involved with the onboarding. You're very involved with just being there for feedback. So I see that quite a bit. How do you feel like you're shaping the culture of team and this teammate mentality? And also, how do you like supervise them on that? How much do you do for that?
Yeah, for the culture piece, I mean, that is my role, right? So my role is really three things when I talk to the people. I got to make sure that I keep you gainfully employed, right? I got to pay you on time and your pay's got to be accurate.
Mm,
And I got to create this culture around you where you feel you can belong. I mean, those are the main things of what I do. Everything else is just kind of like secondary to that. If I'm taking care of those major things, then I'm starting to build this culture where people can feel like they belong. They're part of something. They're an extension of my family. Okay. Extremely critical, extremely important. And the messaging just has to be consistent, right? Because I can be standing in front of a group on a Monday. It's not the same group I'm talking to on a Friday,
mm.
right? And so the messaging has to be consistent, it has to be clear, and that's what's going to help in building that culture. And then it's also, that expression, I see better than I hear. And so they got to be able to see us being able to deliver on some of these things because if we're not delivering, it doesn't matter what I say, right? It's what my managers are not doing. And that's where I got to make sure that I'm putting enough metrics around that where I feel like, okay, we've gotten this many requests for X, Y, and Z. We've gotten these concerns that were raised. What are we doing about them? And when is it going to be? When's the core issue going to be addressed? So that's the kind of stuff that I have to be involved in on a day-to-day basis to make sure that we stay on track.
That's really cool. And it makes complete sense. When you see other people who may not be as far along with their recruiting, their training, their onboarding practices, I mean, even in CEO circle, I'm sure you see people with people problems. What kind of mistakes are they making?
Yeah.
Common mistakes are they making?
At a very basic level is that they probably stopped hiring. Like you never stop hiring, you never stop recruiting. Even if it's networking, even if it's talking to other people, talking with other business owners about what they're doing to be able to manage their teams. I mean, it's that whole you can't see the forest from within the trees, which is what I love most about CEO Circle. It's given me an opportunity to be around like-minded individuals with no pressure, right? Like we're in different industries. You can tell me you're amazing, right? I'll believe you, right? But when I'm hearing certain stories and the things that are happening and how you're dealing with those challenges, that's important for a CEO, for an owner. But never stop hiring, never stop looking for talent. Always continue to assess your group. We assess our people on a weekly basis. I assess my leadership team at the very least on a 90-day cycle based on the quarterly rocks they were able to complete or not complete.
You
So,
said, let me, sorry, interrupt you here. You
yep,
assess your frontline guys on a weekly basis,
weekly basis.
and your supervisors give them a report on how they're doing based on that system you have?
Yeah, so we have a scorecard that comes out. We assess the scorecard and we go off of separate rating system off of that. And then we coach them to the things that they are not hitting on their scorecard or other areas like, reliability, right? Showing up on time, maybe uniform, maybe there was a specific instance around like professionalism, whatever. It's
Hmm.
those specific things that we coach to. But on a weekly basis, I have an idea of where we are as an entire team. If we have a bunch of C players or even D players, we got a problem, and we need to go back to recruiting. And because that's what recruiting does. It gives us the
Hmm.
ability to be able to continue to build the team and grow it, and never have to be in a situation where you're understaffed, and then what are you doing? You're settling.
How
You know.
large is your recruiting team, your talent team, Rudy?
So our recruiting team is we have an HR manager who leads the team. My wife has always been involved in recruiting for the last 5 years. We have at least three virtual assistants that are involved in moving people through in our applicant tracking system. We have operations managers that are involved once they go into training and handling orientation and then being able to provide feedback within the first 30 days. So, I mean, you're talking, I don't know, what is that? Uh,
Six,
Easily
seven-ish?
yeah,
Yeah.
seven to nine people
Yeah.
involved in that process.
Well, and the fact that that's where your wife spends most of her time in
Yep.
recruiting, that's also very meaningful because that's how important it is, right?
Yep.
That's how important it is, and you can trust her, and she knows you and understands you and understands the culture, so she's immediately vetting against that for their first initial conversations. That's really cool to hear. I'm curious, Rudy, how much of your background as a immigrant, right? You said your parents are immigrants, right?
Yeah.
And
My
they
parents came
became
from
naturalized, so you're like
Mexico.
a 1.5, we call it then,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
you were
Yeah.
born here, right? You,
Yeah. Yeah. I was
yeah,
born here.
yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
was
So
born
you're
here.
like a 1.5. Um, does that play into kind of how you think about running a business and running teams?
Yeah. I want to say I definitely think it does.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, look, growing up, for me, inner city, public school educated, I always throw it out there when I talk to, people that I'm recruiting because, I mean, you understand what public schools in New York City were back in the 80s, 90s,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Um, just the idea that you were able to graduate high school and then get into college
Hmm.
is a success in itself, when in other areas it's like an expectation. So I always felt like I was the underdog. And listen, for me, I always saw it as just like, okay, that's fine, uh, you know I'm here, and so if I can do that like more than others that have been given other opportunities, for me, it's just my drive. It's what helps me continue to push. And even now to this day, um, where I have individuals talk to me and let me know, hey, you should just take pause for a sec, enjoy what you've got going on. But the immigrant in my parents doesn't allow me to think that way. And so it's just the way that I'm wired, and saying that until I'm able to take care of my my parents, my wife's family, um, we're employing family in this business until we're good. Like I'll settle then. And so it's also a double-edged sword, right? Where you just don't let up, but it is what it is, right? That's at this point in my life, I'm doubling down on the things that I'm really good at and subbing out everything else. And so this is just kind of like my DNA and who I am.
Rudy, I smile because I feel like that's why we got friendly so quickly. Aside from John Barry introducing us, but yeah, I have the similar kind of mindset, the ownership, responsibility mindset for not just your immediate family, but for the extended family, right? And that you're the guy kind of overseeing just everyone's welfare. That's a lot on your shoulders, and I hear that too. You just have a lot going on your shoulders. You put on your shoulders, and I think that's very common that we share, both of us, both of you, you and I.
100%.
And you got to just keep going, right. Yeah,
Keep going, man.
yeah, just keep driving. um I want to ask just about your mentor selection. All right, you're a coach, you're an executive coach, people find you and you mentor them. I don't know how you have the time for it though. Honestly, that's why you don't sleep too much. But yeah, you do that. How do you select? Do you have mentors now, and how do you select them?
Yeah. So mentors is based on what I'm looking for in a specific area. Like I have a fitness coach, right? Like, yes, I was in the military and probably led some workouts and stuff like that, but we're talking about a whole different level, right? I'm gonna be 45 this year. Like there's certain things I can't do anymore that I probably shouldn't do, right? So I need a professional, I need an expert to be able to kind of help guide me through
Mhm.
that. Um, I've got a mentor that was also an entrepreneur and very successful. Now he's a coach and does stuff within the veteran community, and so I lean on him as well. And then I have a lot of peer mentors, and so like you're Freddie, you're one of them, right? I call you, we talk through some scenarios, sometimes mostly around staffing and the direction I'm going in that particular area. But like the peer mentorship for me is super key, right? And so I like putting myself in environments like CEO Circle where I can continue to learn. That whole expression of if you're the smartest man in the room, you're in the wrong room. But I always feel like there's a lot of smart people in CEO Circle, right? And for me, that's the type of room that I want to be in. And so and you always get the referrals. You always
Mm.
get, hey, you should talk to this person, right? This person's doing AI. You should, really talk to them about that particular thing. Or, hey, this person runs a large logistics company. You should talk to them about structure. And so I consistently do that. I probably talk to about, I don't know, easily 2 to 3 people
Mm.
outside of my team on a weekly basis, and that helps keep me grounded.
Rudy, you and I have also talked about just businesses, right? Acquiring businesses and then finding the right leader to run that. Where are you with that? With just the
Yeah.
entrepreneurship through acquisition, thought that you had before?
Yeah. So next year, I'm probably going to be in a better position to be able to do something like that. But the other thing that I've realized, and just through people within my network, opportunities come to you, right? People call me and like, hey, I'm selling my business. Would you be interested in taking a look at it, right? And what I've come to realize when it comes down to due diligence or looking at businesses, any kind of business being sold by another entrepreneur, I feel is always going to be an emotional sale. So being able to have a connection with that person is step one, regardless if you're going to move forward or not. So the opportunities are there. Where I am, I actually want to like get my existing business on track to the point where I don't have to worry about it.
Mm.
And so AI is going to be able to help me there.
Hmm.
It's going to help me through automating some tasks. It's going to help me by being able to automate my scorecard, be able to provide leading indicators on a daily basis. So I'm looking at my metrics on a daily rather than a weekly. So there's systemization with my communication, and being able to communicate with my team to be more impactful, not just me talking to the team, but maybe creating an avatar, like a 30-second TikTok video, has a messaging, but it's funny, and people look forward to something like that.
Yeah.
So there's things that I want to do that is more focused on being able to get this, this 8-figure business to where I think it needs to be, because that's just kind of like the pride of ownership. Um, Opportunities will come. We are looking at a potential acquisition um, in the FedEx space to be able to double the size of the existing team, to be able to take on more of the volume share within the specific location, which I think is a good strategic play. And it creates more opportunities for the drivers and the managers within that existing business. So that's what I'm looking at really for the next 12 months.
Do you, you're very involved, Rudy, right? You're very involved. Do you have things that you completely just delegate to somebody else? Are there areas that you just say, this is delegation, just keep me updated, and this is my CCIR, like Commander's Critical Information Requirements? This
Yep.
is what are there areas there that you're able to do so?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, so what I've managed closely, and some people would be like, you're crazy, is my calendar and my inbox. Yes, I have a VA that's able to help, schedule some stuff that I may not be able to be behind a computer, and I want a, nice, effective email, timely email to go out. But my calendar and my inbox are things that I manage myself. Everything
Wow.
else is delegated down to include messaging that comes out on my communication systems, like whether it's on Microsoft Teams, on Amazon Chime, on WhatsApp, on all these other platforms that I'm on. We use DSP Workplace to be able to chat with our drivers. Anything that is like needs to be raised for my attention gets sent to me either by a virtual assistant or a manager. I have my critical information requirements, which are I call CITs, critical information triggers, and it's dealing with anything, injuries, um, you know, things that impact individuals, immediate family. Somebody's, child is in the hospital. Somebody got into, an accident, something like that. Things related to the contract, the business, and so we have 8 of them. That gets pushed down to every captain and above. I get a phone call right away. And if I don't get a phone call, like my first question is, why didn't I get a phone call, right? You know how it is, right? Being having
Yep.
been in the military, super important, right? You
Hmm.
don't hold back. So most of the other things have been delegated. Now, do I jump in as a visionary and be a disruptor? Like, yeah, naturally, I can't change that, and my team can't change that. That's what they get with me. That's they're good, and
Well,
they got to deal with me
yeah.
jumping in and making a mess.
Do you have an integrator?
So my integrator in the business is my CFO, and
Mm.
so we've almost dual hatted some things where he manages a lot of the cadence with the huddles, the meetings, making sure the scorecard's updated, things of that nature, while I'm involved and being boots on the ground with my people.
Mm.
And I'm pushing information to him. I'm like, hey, John, seen some stuff I'm not crazy about, maybe on the closing side of things. We got to raise that as an issue. Let's make sure we bring that up. And so he's the guy that kind of keeps me on track. And he's an entrepreneur. This guy was an
Mm.
entrepreneur. He used to run one of the largest moving and storage companies.
Mm.
One of my best friends, and I have that level of trust with him where I'm still learning from him
Mm.
because some of the stuff that he experienced early on in his career. And so, we're constantly always communicating and talking.
Super cool. Rudy,
Yeah.
I appreciate it, man. You've kind of blown my brain a little bit here with some of this stuff that you're just killing. So commend you, and I'm so glad we had this opportunity to get to know each other a little bit, or for all of us to get to know you a little bit. Super pumped for you. So proud of you. Keep crushing it. Keep crushing it. So yeah, thanks again. Is there anything else? The last minute advice to the veteran entrepreneur, or just what your takeaway is from this?
Yeah. It was actually, I had an aha moment in talking to, talking to somebody this past week, somebody that made the transition, somebody you connected with me after 20 years, they're making their transition too. And, he was very curious. He had like very solid questions. The guy's, and just
Smart
success,
guy, super smart guy, right?
super successful.
Yep.
The things that he's done in his military career,
Hmm.
things he's done, B school, and now what he's going to do in the next, professional chapter of his life, um, is what I mentioned to him, and it really just came out of just talking with him, and I've shared it a few times, but it was very like very clear to me on what I wanted the message to be for him, and that it's been my experience that most people underestimate what they can do in the long run, and they overestimate what they can do what they do in the short run. And so my point there is always think big, and then just have a solid plan to be able to get you through the next 90 days, which is just clarity around, focus and clarity around the things that you want to get done. And so if you can just do that as a veteran entrepreneur, just 90 days at a time, and always think big, like everything else is just the details of what you're doing. Okay. And you don't want to get caught up in the OODA loop, right? The Boyd cycle, absorb,
Hmm.
orient, decide, and
Hmm.
act. Don't
Hmm.
get caught in the OODA loop, because that's not a good place to be. So.
Yeah. That's awesome, Rudy. Thank you so much. And for the rest of you guys out there, now you build your A team. Thanks.